your Pilates session for healthy hips. So we're just going to go through some movements that are going to strengthen and improve your flexibility and mobility when it comes to your hips. So come up and over, lie on your back, and get comfortable down here. So we've got feet on the floor, we're bending the knees, and just bringing heel of the hand onto the hip bones and fingers onto the pubic bones. We create this little triangle shape on top of the pelvis. And we're going to take some pelvic tilts here, just to warm up through the hips, but also through the lower back, and everything's connected. So, we want to make sure that we're a little bit warm here. So all I want you to do is think about gently pressing your lower back down into the floor. It's going to automatically tip your pelvis backwards and bring it into a position that we call imprint. So it's just where that lower back is pressed down and your pelvis is tilted backwards. Can help us in some of our other Pilates moves. We're then going to go the other way. So bring that pelvis back into neutral, and then I want you to try and make that gap under the lower back bigger. So we're tilting the pelvis away from us. And then we're going to tilt back, lower back presses down into the floor, and then we go the other way, make that gap a little bit bigger. So we're rocking the pelvis backwards and forwards here. So you're going to keep going through this move at a pace that feels good for you. And we start to warm up through the lower body. But also this is a really nice stretch for the lower back. So if you find that your lower back is feeling a little bit stiff, you can't seem to release it and stretch it out, then this might be a good move for you to do. We just feel that movement into the hips, into the pelvis. And we're just here for 4, 3, 2, and 1. Come and bring your pelvis back through to neutral, so wherever it feels comfortable for you to be. I'm going to bring the arms down by the sides, and we're coming to knee folds. Right leg, you're going to lift your knee up into tabletop, so we get that 90-degree bend at the knee. We're going to place that foot down, and then we lift the left knee up and place it down. So you're going to keep changing sides. Again, just moving at a pace that feels right for you. Lifting and lowering that knee. Knee comes up in line with the hip. So we don't want to bring the knee all the way in towards the chest. We want to keep it in line with the hip so we get that 90-degree bend. We might have a gentle scoop in through the abdominals, because the challenge in this move is keeping the hips and pelvis still, as still as we can. So we might have a little bit of movement just because both sides are not going to be totally symmetrical. But we shouldn't really have, really exaggerated rocking from side to side as we're doing this move. We should be able to keep the hips reasonably still. If you're not sure whether you're moving around or not, you might just want to come and place your hands again back on top of the pelvis like we did for the pelvic tilts. Just to give yourself an indication of what might be going on. If this feels totally fine for you, you're happy that you're not really moving around that much and you want a little bit more, you can take it into a double knee fold. So we lift one knee, then the other knee, place one foot down and the other foot down. So we lift, lift, lower and lower. This is going to work the abdominals a little bit more, as well as the hip flexors. Because we're asking the hips to keep the legs lifted for longer. Keeping that stillness through the pelvis as we move into our last one. Lovely. Placing both feet down. If you need to, just lengthen the legs out for a moment. Might want to give your legs a little bit of a shake. When you're ready, I'm going to come into single leg circles. So feet on the floor, knees bent to start with. Right leg, we're going to lift up towards the ceiling. Now from here, we're just going to start to take that leg round in a circle. This is really going to get into the hip flexors. So if you start to feel this, don't worry. That's sort of what's meant to be happening. Now this left leg, you can keep it where it is. If you find it is getting in the way of this moving leg, then you can shuffle your foot a little bit further towards the end of your mat so you've got a bit more space. If you've got quite a bit of flexibility in your hips and it feels comfortable, you might want to lengthen the leg out completely. But if your hips are quite tight like mine are, it's not going to feel comfortable for you. So you might want to place your foot back on the floor. Now these leg circles are going to be whatever size you want them to be, provided that you can keep that stillness through the hips. So as you're moving this leg, if you're rocking your pelvis from side to side, then you want to make those circles a little bit smaller. So see how it feels for you. And this is really good for our hip dissociation. So being able to move the leg in the socket without taking the entire hips and pelvis and lower back with us. We should be able to move this leg whilst keeping this lower part of the body relatively still. And I know this aches, trust me, I'm feeling it with you. If it's way too much, you can take a bend in the knee and then just circle the knee round. You still want to be moving from the top of the hip, so where your leg meets your hip in the socket. And we're going to take it back in the other direction. We're not here for long. Keep that leg moving, make the circles smaller if you need to. For 4, 3, 2, and 1. Come and bring that leg down. Might want to lengthen it away. Ooh. It's very achy at the front of the hip. Well done. We're going to change sides. So we're going to lift that left leg up towards the ceiling. And let's start taking those circles. So see how it feels on this side. Might be a little bit easier, or maybe this is your tighter side. Just see how it feels. Again, you might be able to take those circles a little bit bigger, or you might need to reduce that movement slightly. You can come and place the hands back onto the hips if you feel like you need to, or if you want to, and you can change the position of this right foot, so you can shuffle that leg further away, you can lengthen it out completely, or you can keep it in and on the floor. Keep that breath going, in through the nose, out through the mouth. And let's take this leg in the other direction. You might feel like you really struggle to get that circular movement on some of this. Just keep that leg moving for 4, 3, 2, and 1. Place that leg down. You might just want to lengthen both legs away for a moment. Maybe give them a little bit of a shake. And we're going to come up and over onto our side. So you can either lengthen this bottom arm on the floor or come and rest head in hand. Just depends what feels more comfortable for you. So come and bend the knees, and we're going to bring the feet underneath the bum. We're going to come into some clams. So we're drawing in through the belly, and this top leg, top knee, is going to lift and lower. Now we want to keep the heels together as we do this move. But if the toes come apart, so if they lift when you bring the knee up, then that's totally fine. We can keep the heels together, and then that's great. Make sure that we just don't over-rotate in this movement. You might want to come down a little bit further. So this is going to target the outside of the hip, outside of the glutes. Looks good. Good job. And we want to keep this hip still. So hips are stacked one on top of the other. So that as we lift the knee, we're not rolling backwards or rolling forwards through the hips. So again, you can just come and place the hand on top if you are not sure. If you just want to have a little check. And this is probably going to start to ache into the leg, into the side of the hip. But we're not going to be here for too long. We've got 4, 3, 2, and 1. Come and bring that knee down. Ooh, might need to lengthen the leg away or bring it up a little bit. Give it a little bit of a stretch. And then we're going to come up and over onto the other side. So you can flip yourself around, come back down. However it feels comfortable for your head and your hand. We bend the knees and we bring them underneath the bum. Draw in through that belly and we're going to lift and lower. Keeping those heels together. You might find that one side is a little bit more restricted than the other. You might not be able to lift the knee quite as high, but that's fine. Keep your back pattern going. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Lovely. We're going to keep this going. Hips are stacked one on top of the other. And we want to be building up this strength in these supporting muscles on the outside of the leg. Because then we can start to take pressure away from the front of the hips, from the hip flexors that you've just felt in those leg circles. You might be able to give the glute a little squeeze as you lift that knee. Just making it a little bit more intense as if it's not bad enough already. Stay with the breath. We're nearly there. I mean, you might really feel this. You might find this really tough. Especially if you sit down a lot. Sitting at a desk all day is going to weaken these muscles on the outside of the hip, but also make these ones at the front in your hip flexors quite tight. We've just got 4, 3, 2, and 1. Lengthen that leg away or bring it in towards the chest, whatever you feel like your body needs. Ooh. And we're going to come and roll over onto our front. So not too far to go, which is always nice. We're going to come up onto the forearms. So make sure that you're in a position where you feel quite nice and stable and we're lifted through the chest. Legs are long and in line with the hips. Now we're going to come into a single leg kick, which is quite a nice movement. So right leg, we're going to press down through the palms or through the forearms, lifting ourselves up. Right leg, we're going to pulse in for 2 and extend it away. And then left leg, we pulse in and extend. So we're just going to keep doing this on And it starts to lengthen and stretch through the front of the hip. And it's not going to be a move that's going to really burn. You might not really feel this like you did with the leg circles or with the clams that we've just done. But actually it's quite a nice movement just to lengthen and stretch. Lovely. And we take a double pulse, 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 and extend. Let's take one more each side. Lovely. Come on down. Resting the head down on the mat. We're just going to take hold of our right foot with our right hand and just draw that foot in towards the bum, pressing foot against the hand. So we come into a quad stretch, the front of the thigh. Again, just stretching through the front of that hip. Releasing that leg, and we're going to come onto the other side. So left hand, left foot. Drawing the foot in, pressing that hand into the foot and foot into the hand. Lovely. Release the leg. We're going to come on up. So push back onto your knees. So we're up high. We're going to take the right foot forward. So we've got that 90-degree bend in the front knee, 90-degree bend in the back knee. You're going to tuck your tailbone under. So think about tucking under through this lower part of the back. And then we're going to gently bring our hips forwards. So it's just a gentle hip flexor stretch. Feeling that in the front of that left hip. So not looking for this to be a really exaggerated stretch, because then we can often overstretch and just make that ache a little bit worse, which we don't want to do. Lovely. Release that stretch, bring that leg back, and let's change sides. Left leg steps forward, we've got that 90-degree bend, so knee is in line with the ankle. We tuck that tailbone and just gently pushing forwards. Nice gentle movement. Feeling that stretch down the front of this right hip. And let's release. Come down and take a seat. We're going to bring the soles of the feet together and just let the knees fall out wide to the side. Now you might be happy sitting nice and tall. This might be enough of a stretch for you. Or if you want more, you can start to lower the chest down. It might help you deepen the stretch or bring the knees out a little bit wider, if that's what you want to achieve. Just breathing into that stretch. And then gently bringing it up. Release the legs. And that is your healthy hip session done for today. So if you've got really tight hips, you might feel that a little bit tomorrow. But don't worry, try to keep moving, try not to spend too long sat down at a desk, get up and move around if you can, and keep coming back to this session, and hopefully over time your hips will start to feel a little bit looser, and you won't suffer with so much tightness or discomfort, especially in those leg circles. So I will see you next time.